From Little League to the big leagues and everywhere in between. From one stage to another. Passion is my middle name. I'm J.J. Davis. This is In Focus. Man, woman, and child did that put him in the aisles. Every Husker fan knows the story. November 25th, 1971, game of the century. Johnny the Jet Rodgers, a 20-year-old, zigzags a punt return, 72 yards for the score, and Big Red, Nebraska, outduels the Oklahoma Sooners in what was one of the greatest college football games of all time. Well, joining me right now is the 1972 Heisman Trophy winner, Mr. All Things Nebraska, Johnny the Jet Rodgers.
Man, woman, and child. I've heard that a million times.
It's an honor.
Well, thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, now, how many times
here.
you watch that play?
Well, I've watched it several different times. I have a talk I go around giving, and we always play the highlights first, so we give Lyle Brimger a chance to set the young people up and bring them up to speed. Otherwise, they'd have no idea.
What's your favorite memory of a fan coming up to you and recalling that play?
Well, I don't have a favorite memory, but it happens so often, because families tell their children about the times, and they show the film, and everybody, even young or old, knows about Lyle Brimger.
All right.
Because Lyle Brimger really was a great caller. He had it down.
And everybody knows about Johnny Rodgers. 5,586 total yards at Nebraska, which was then an NCAA record. But as we all know, your life, your career goes way beyond the yards.
Well, I've been around, and I believe in trying to live the best you can. I get up early every morning because I realize that time goes by so fast. The average life expectancy of people today are only 70 years. That's 840 months.
You're scaring me, John.
840 months.
What were you like as a kid growing up?
Well, I was very athletic. We came from a very poor background. I remember we lived in a place we didn't have heat, we didn't have a bathroom, we didn't have electricity, we didn't have nothing. We lived in Omaha River Bottoms down on 10th and Locust. My grandpa was the provider, and he couldn't read or write, and he was my mentor. But he taught me about hard work, and I was determined I was going to get to another level, and so that's what I seen it was going to happen in sports. And so I played 4 sports: basketball, football, track, and whatever else it was. Yeah, I played all 4, and then I narrowed it down. Track didn't pay any money. Basketball was too short, so it came down to baseball and football. And I got drafted to the Dodgers to play baseball out of high school. But I wanted to get $100,000. They only offered me $25,000. And so Bob Devin talked me into to come to Nebraska because I wanted to go to SC. I was going to go to SC.
SC was my favorite school growing up. Tailback U, as you know.
It was my favorite school too. But he told me that he was going to recruit more African Americans than any other time in history, and he was going to let them play, and we'd have a career there. And I had a very good chance of getting that $100,000. The only problem is when I got drafted to the Chargers, they only offered me $50,000. My mom told me that black people didn't make $100,000.
All right, how did you get the nickname the Jet?
Well, Lyle gave it to me. However he came about it. And I started off as a Jet, and now I'm a prop plane.
An old prop plane. But you can still move.
Oh, I still move. Like I said, my daughter and I are the pickleball champs of Omaha.
All right, speaking of your daughter, you have, the website, the Jet Award, which is annually handed out to the best college football kick returner in the country. And you are described as...
Kick and punt.
Yeah, you are described as an athlete, a scholar, a community activist, an entrepreneur, and Jules' dad.
Right. Well, I'm very proud of my children. I brought them up. I raised all my children. I had my first child when I was 14 years old. And I had 2 or 3 kids by the time I got through college. And I made sure that the girls all 3 of my girls got master's degrees, and all my boys have degrees.
But back then, were you just caught up in it all, being a young guy? I'm a football player. I'm Johnny Rodgers. Were you just caught up in it all like most kids are at that time?
Well, I don't know about caught up. It was my main focus. Athletics was my main focus. Bob Devin made sure that I took education serious too. And then, like I said, because my grandpa was in the trades, I've always had a likes to the trades. In Tech High School, where I went, it was a trade school. Everybody I knew was in a trade, and they had good lives. And so it was kind of normal and natural to come out highlighting education and trades. And
Who was your father figure? Who was your father figure?
My grandfather, Willie Walker. He was the only male that I really had contact with coming up. And like I said, he couldn't read or write, but he worked at cutting.
What was the number one lesson you learned from him?
Well, you have to work hard. You don't want to be poor. You do not want to be poor. And if you don't want to be poor, then you have to get some type of an education. And education is the trade, because of the Tech High, all my friends were in the trades.
Okay. Well, you get down to Nebraska, pro football, Canadian League, et cetera, College Football Hall of Fame. He's won everything. You get your degree from UNL, Journalism and Advertising, 2005. Nebraska Entrepreneur of the Year in 2006. And it just keeps going and going and going, just like that punt return.
Well, I had a pretty good run in San Diego. I had the first weekly cable TV magazine in the United States, because San Diego had the largest saturation of cable in the United States. Then coming back to Nebraska, I got into the juvenile betting products, and everything with the Husker logos, or collegiate logos actually.
Right.
And so we got into collegiate betting. We did very well in that. And now we're trying to get more into education. Education and the trade, because the trades is a big deal, coming up. And we have Metro Community College is probably one of the better schools I've really come across, and Iowa Western over in Iowa. We actually do a scholarship program with them as well.
What made you want to go back and get your degree?
Well, because I told my kids they had to get it, and if I didn't hurry up, they were going to beat me. They were going to get a degree before me, so I had to get a degree before my first one came out to get a degree. Because kids don't do what you say, they do what they see you doing. So I had to lead the way.
Dang. You're a public speaker, Dr. Tom Osborne's Teammates program. You've just done everything. What kind of guy was Johnny Rodgers back in 1971? Who is Johnny Rodgers now in 2024?
Well, I haven't had everything changes. Nothing really stays the same. I've progressed on. But I think I'm just a daring individual. I want to live life to the fullest. I don't believe in the level of best and good that we're trying. These days, we have to be world class. I talked to Chancellor, what's our new Chancellor, or President Gold. And he says that he wants to be world class in football now, because everything is going to a higher level. Right. And so you have to make sure that you just don't settle for where you're at, or how you have to be able to be things you haven't thought yet.
Exactly.
We have to tell our kids that they haven't got there yet.
Exactly.
You got to be great at what you're doing, but it's not as great as you can be. No matter how good you are, you can be better.
My motto is, victory is in the attempt. You never give up, you keep going, you never quit. Whether you get there or not, it is the journey, and it's the fact that you win because you try and you keep trying.
Well, you win because you learn.
Correct.
You learn things you don't know.
Correct.
You learn because you tried.
Correct.
And so now you know more.
Yeah, we're supposed to know more.
The more you know, the more you don't know, because the more you know that there is to know.
All right, you won all these awards we've talked about at College Football News at one time. Named you the greatest kick returner in history. How many punt returns for touchdown, Johnny?
I have no idea.
7. Seven punt returns for touchdown.
Well, thank you.
Of all the accolades, all the awards, what means most to you?
Well, I think the thing that means most to me in my life is all my children are fairly successful. And coming up, like I said, I had my first child when I was 14. Most people probably would abandon their kids at 14. And so I picked them on up as I came up in life and made sure that everybody got educations and everybody are doing well. And so now I got 13, 14 great-grandchildren, 7, 8, 9, 10 grandchildren, 7 children. I have so many that I got to write their names in my phone so I can remember who's who. They call me Paw. Who are you?
What is the one thing because everybody's come up to you, taken a million pictures, a million selfies. We had one here in the studio just before we came in. What is the one thing, perchance, that people don't know about you?
Well, I really don't think they know just how poor we started off with, because everybody figures they have such bad situations and circumstances that they can't get out.
We all do, that's
But,
right.
but when you start at a level where, you, like I said, you have to go to the bathroom in an outhouse, and you don't have electricity, you don't have running water. Most people don't start there. That's not where they start. So you can come from where you're at to get to where you're going, but you just got to make sure you don't quit on anything big or small, or else it will become a habit.
All right. Have you always been this way, self-reflective, strong from within? Have you always been this way, this driven?
Well, I don't know. I think one of the best things that happened to me was me and my mom didn't get along early, so I ran away from home at 14. And I took the car and went to Detroit. And so when you go on experiences like that,
Johnny, keep going.
Well, you end up in Detroit, you're on your own. And so if you work yourself out and back through some things like that, then a lot of things that are big things don't be big anymore. You're used to challenges. And so I've had all different type of challenges, starting at a young age and doing things that you wouldn't have a thought to think of to do. And I've made it through. And I think also, I've never had a fair catch. And not fair catching in football. And I've been ran over because I wouldn't put that hand up.
That's right.
So I've been ran over in life for not putting my hand up.
But that's exactly it, John. That's what you've learned in life. Never fair catch. Keep going. Because sometimes you're going to score.
Well, even if you're going to get close enough to score.
That's right.
See, it's not like one big deal. It's
right.
a series of things. I think that the biggest thing I've learned, though, is that you don't win Heisman trophies by yourself or national championship. Right. You don't have a good life by yourself. It's always in conjunction with others that you have your greatest accomplishments and your teammates. Teamwork makes your dreams work. And I had great teammates. People talk about me a lot, but I want to point out all the time that if you got 24 unassisted tackles in college, then you could probably be an All-American.
Right.
Richie Glover had 24 unassisted tackles in one game, an Oklahoma game.
Well, and you talk about...
That's the kind of team I had.
You talk about the game of the century. That 72-yard punt return, in your mind, was not even the biggest play of the game.
Controlling the ball was the biggest thing in the game, not giving the ball back. And so I had a third down catch.
That's right, fourth quarter.
Jerry Taggy, which I just seen the other day. That really kept our drive moving, and so we could keep the ball. Because if we had to give the ball back, they were scoring it almost at will. We had to keep the ball.
It was a track meet, we call them.
Yeah.
So you are 73 years old right now, correct?
Yeah, I don't worry about it.
All right, I'm just kidding. Sum up your journey from that kid born in poverty to this man now who teaches others.
Well, I think I'm really just getting started. I haven't had my best days
That's how I
yet.
feel, Johnny.
I haven't had the best days
Yes.
yet. Like I said, I played pickleball. Me and my daughter are
That's
city
right.
champs. We
Show
won
him a
4
war
times.
wound, Johnny.
Oh, you can see it, yeah.
His foot. He's got a bad foot.
And this is one of the few injuries I've had.
That's right, playing pickleball.
Pickleball against women.
Well, gotta watch that, Johnny.
Women. Well, that's who did it.
Hey.
I was playing with the girl, against the girl.
Did you win?
We didn't finish.
Oh, what do you mean, Johnny?
We were tied when I left.
Well, you know how it is when you're an athlete, man. You fall down, you get right back up because you don't want anybody to know that you're hurt, right?
Well, you can play hurt.
Right.
But
in life, you play hurt too.
You play hurt all the time. That has nothing to do with anything. You just continue on. Like I said, you don't have to do it all. I still bring people together with a bad leg. It's not about what I do. It's about what the team does.
You have been blessed.
Well, I have good people. I have access. I have access to good people in life. I have a good family, my daughters and my sons. Mm-hmm. I have good connections. President Gold, Tom Osborne. Mm-hmm. We've had success, and in friendship, people around us are doing well.
And as you've just heard, he's doing well. Johnny the Jet Rodgers just tore them loose from their shoes. Listen, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's an honor to speak to you.
Thank you, Jay. All right.
You're a good man, and your future is bright. And like you just said, we've only just begun.
Our future is so bright, we got to wear shades.
That's right. Coming up next, a Schweiger with a theater swagger. Right after this. I first met this woman when she tried to kill everybody in character in 2016 on the set of The Resistible Rise of Arturo Ui at the Blue Barn Theater. So I'm very happy to say, joining me right now is that woman, currently the artistic director at the Shelterbelt Theatre, Daena Schweiger.
You want me to do the Emmanuel Giri laugh?
Do it! She won awards. You were great. You were running around with that gun. You were natural with that gun.
I just blew out the mic, and poor Mike in the sound room is like, why are you laugh so loud with the microphone?
But that's okay, because you are everything theater in Omaha. Now people think I got a busy schedule. Tell us your daily schedule, a day in the life.
Oh, a day in the life. Right now, so Shelterbelt Theater is just coming back online after a hiatus. So we lost our space about 2017, 2018, and have been looking for a place, and we finally found one down at the Omar building on 43rd and Nicholas. We have a show coming up in August. So between my regular day job, which is accounting and finance manager at a church, I usually leave there about 4:30, and yesterday's schedule was worked from 8 until 4:30.
That's right.
Left, went down to the Omar and met with my lighting designer.
Right, that's right.
For a show that I'm doing in October.
Now, would we have it any other way?
No, of course not. Of course not. No. You know, and it's funny because so many people, because I have a day job, you know, so many people refer to theater as a hobby. And I bristle a little bit because that's what my degree is in. So what I usually say is, well, theater is my career, and I just have a day job that pays the bills.
All right, but where did it all begin for you when you grew up? Talk to me about that. The early years.
The early years. So my mother was single parent, raised me in the world of theater and sports, oddly enough. So one of my earliest memories was going to the Orpheum Theater and seeing Porgy and Bess. That was an Opera Omaha production. And then when I was a kid, my mother used to take me to Omaha Royals baseball games down at Rosenblatt.
Old Johnny Rosenblatt, I remember.
Oh, yeah. And I found out years later, it was crushing, JJ. It was absolutely crushing. Because they would bring back the San Diego Chicken. You remember the San Diego Chicken?
Of course I remember Who doesn't? The first real mascot.
Exactly. And so the Omaha Royals had brought the San Diego Chicken in like a couple of times, and I absolutely loved it. And my mother waited in line so we could get like a picture of the San Diego Chicken that he signed and everything. And then years later, she was like, I freaking hated that thing. I did it for you. And I was like, a childhood memory crushed, but at the same time, I was like, wow, what an awesome parent.
But what was the turning point that said to you, yeah, I want to be a performer, the arts?
So I went to the University of Nebraska at Lincoln, and I had done high school plays and things like that.
Mercy?
Yep, at Mercy High School, exactly. And all-girls Catholic school.
That's correct. My sisters went there in Baltimore.
Oh, did they? Okay,
yes,
all right.
They did.
So I went down, and I went down early because I was going to go through the rush, you know, and try and get in a sorority. And did not get accepted into any sorority except for the one sorority that took all the rejects. I didn't really want to do that. So, I mean, that was kind of a deal breaker for me. And so I was crying, and I called my mother, and I was upset, and she said, you had mentioned that the university was having auditions. Why don't you just go and audition for a play? Just go get my roommate from college wasn't in town yet. I was by myself in the dorm room. It was before anything started.
Gosh.
She said, go. So I went, I walked in, I'm in sweat, you know, a t-shirt and shorts.
What was the play?
So they were auditioning for the season.
Okay.
And I almost walked out because all of the theater majors were there, and they were in dresses and suits, and they had everything memorized.
Yeah, we know how that works. Yeah.
Right? Auditioned, left, thinking nothing's happening. Then I had to, you know, kind of go back down into the bowels of the Howell building, which is where the theater department's located. And that's where, on the call board, where they had everything. And so I went back down and walked through the haze of cigarette smoke, because back in the day you could smoke indoors, which is a great thing. former smoker. And and I had been cast as Martha Cratchit in A Christmas Carol. And that's what started it all, because you go through the performance, and you know this, when you're working with people 5-6 days a week,
Right.
3 hours a day,
Family.
it becomes family. Exactly. And I felt like I fit in with these people, and that's what started it. And so after I did that, then I called my mother and said, I think I want to make this my degree, and she was all for it. So
That's a wonderful story.
yeah, it was pretty cool. So thanks for not putting me in a sorority. I appreciate it.
How did it expand into writing, into directing, into doing pretty much everything?
So and we were talking about this off camera. So I've always kind of had like a little bit of an affinity for like horror films and things like that. So after I graduated, I was working as a stage manager for Opera Omaha, and worked for them for about 10 years. And at the time, the Omaha World Herald would put in audition notices and put theater notices in. And the Shelterbelt Theater had put out a call for scripts for their Halloween show, which was a one-act show called Shelter Skelter, and they were looking for scripts. So I actually went and adapted, I wrote a story about a possessed chair that was a true story, actually, from over in England, called Busby's Chair. And anybody who sat in the chair, then things would happen to them, to the point where they actually, the story goes that they put it downstairs in a basement somewhere and hung it up on a wall so nobody would sit in it.
Listen, I can tell you a few news anchors and sports people that I've worked with over the years that once they inhabited that chair.
Right? Exactly. So yeah, so that's how it got started. So I'd written a couple of things for Shelter Skelter, and they accepted it, and then I started writing more for those scripts, and that's how the playwriting happened.
So you've written things, you've been an actress, Omaha Community Playhouse, Chanticleer Theater, Bellevue Little Theater, and on and on and on. You've directed. The Shelterbelt. Why the Shelterbelt?
Here's what's exciting about doing new works. You are, whether you're a director or a performer or a creative doing lighting design,
Right.
set design, whatever, you are creating this world for the first time. How exciting is that? It's different than if you've done your 15th, if you're like the 500th person in the world that's done Shelby and Steel Magnolias. Yes, you put your spin on it. But you're not the very first person that does it. There's a reason why, if you open up any commercial script, and by commercial I mean Samuel French, dramatist, anything like that, that they will put the first cast list in there. First time it was done.
I've seen that a million times when you
Right.
get your
And you
script.
don't sit there and you think about it. But
And you're
you
wondering
do.
who did it.
Yeah, but you do think about it. So Shelterbelt concentrates on new plays. That's what they do. Yes, we'll do commercial plays every now and then, musicals, but the whole thing is you're breathing life into a show for the first time.
Which would you prefer, in front of or behind?
They exercise different.
You.
They exercise different skill sets. So for a while, I think it depends on what strikes my fancy. So for a while, it was when I got out of school, it was the performance side of it. I really enjoyed it. Acting or directing was something completely different. So when I had the opportunity, I saw it as a challenge. And then I kept doing it because people kept asking me, and why turn it down? It's a guaranteed thing, as opposed to if you're a performer and you walk into an audition, when you walk out the door, you don't know if it's guaranteed. Whereas if you're a director, you're doing the project. So the directing was always wonderful. If somebody wants me to direct, they must think I'm good enough to do it. But after COVID, I did a little bit more acting, and I realized how much I missed it. So then I've done that for a while. Now this musical that I'm doing in October, it's been 3 years now since I've done the directing side of it. The last few things have been performing. So I'm itching to get back on that side of it too. So it's just exercising different muscles.
As I tell people, theater, the bug, performance, whatever, it's something you cannot explain. It's just in you. I cannot put it into words.
That is true. It really is. There's something about it, the exhilaration of knowing that whether you're a performer or a director, that you have the ability to allow your audience to escape from their lives,
Man,
their problems.
Listen to you.
For a couple of hours. You know, it's, if you think about it that way, in some ways you're like, oh my gosh, that's kind of a burden. But at the same time, that's what we do as entertainment.
Right. And as far as entertainment is concerned, I looked up the definition of the Shelterbelt Theater. It's defined as a long row of trees that protects a farmer's homeland. And I went, yeah, I get it. How many times have I been driving during the course of my life and I've seen that? And then I looked at you and I said, yeah, that's Daena. To me, from afar, from what I see in you, you protect all things theater. Wow.
I appreciate that.
You do.
I
you
appreciate
encompass that.
I appreciate that. It's theater is it's special. It's special, and I think what's great about the Shelterbelt, and it goes to your point, the Shelterbelt Theater has always been a nurturing place. It's where a lot of performers have gotten their start. You know, it's low key. It doesn't have, you know, the pressures. A lot of people who are, you know, get stuff on their resume, whether it's a director. I probably never would have thought about directing if I hadn't had the opportunity at the Shelterbelt. So,
all right, as a director, define yourself in one word. As a director, one word.
Detailed.
As an actor, actress, define yourself in one word.
Committed.
So you are committed to every detail. What's that say about you?
I need therapy.
Don't we all? Don't we all? What's it say about you?
I don't know. I like to have a good time, and
Yes.
I like that the people around me have a good time. I like the collaboration.
What would the people that we know, that we've come in contact with, what do you think people would say about you?
Thank goodness it's public access. I would hope that people would think that I'm someone that they would want to work with again.
Amen. Amen. But just not kill everybody like you tried to on the set in 2000.
Right?
Give me that laugh again. Listen, from the bottom of my heart, this has been a joy and more. Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Daena Schweiger. By the way, she's got her own podcast, Take 5. I'm a rookie compared to her. She's big time. And she also does audiobooks on Amazon.com. I mean, my gosh, she does everything. She's wonderful. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you. Have me back, and let's talk about sports, and then have a sports person on to talk about theater. That'd be like...
Well, you got to watch this show, because I've told you...
Out of focus,
now
right?
Our whole life's been out of focus. So, listen, thank you, and thanks everyone for joining us for this latest edition of In Focus. And as always, I like to say, Daena, I'll see you around town.